the one thing we're seeing with the wind is, where are the environmental impact studies on these things on state land? I mean, we can't find them anywhere. So
I would look to the state land board, led by the governor in the state of Wyoming.
That's
for
right.
those answers. Is that your call as well?
Well, you would think. You would think. Of course, the DEQ, Department of Environmental Quality, has a big play in this too. So the way this kind of works is that the governor appoints an ISC, Industrial Siting Council. It's a 6-member board. One of them has to be an opposing party. And so far, that Industrial Siting Council has pretty much rubber stamped every wind project or solar project that's come to this state. So, and all of these, particularly if they're going on state land, all require a public comment period. Well, I'm sure folks, your viewers out there are familiar with Radiant Energy, what happened up in Bar None, which was an outfit that produced modular nuclear reactors. Okay, it's not a novel concept by any means, but it was one of those things that required public comment. So when the people heard about it, they didn't like it at all. But I will tell you what happened here is whether it's the Sweetwater BLM RMP, the resource management plan over there, whether it's the sage grouse issue, whether it's the Fremont or Park County or all these new land use plans that are very encumbering upon the folks, whether it's Pronghorn H2 or what's going on in Chugwater as they're trying to shut these windmills down, or this big push to put more windmills down, is that any of these projects that require public comment, the skids are already greased, the deals have been made, the legislation has been done. It appears to be this way anyway, before the people are actually brought into the equation for public comment. So people are really quickly figuring out that their comment doesn't matter. And I think Bar None just happens to be the confluence of all these issues that went together, because they're seeing this all over the state, right? They're seeing it, and people got PO'd. And they said, no, we don't want it here. Now, obviously nuclear, we already have it here in Kemmerer, right, with the Natrium plant over there, the Bill Gates Natrium plant, right? It's already here. But it ultimately, this comes down to the consent of the governed. And that's what the SLIB's missing, consent of the governed. If the people say no, then the people say no, period. We listen to them. And, I look at the SLIB and I see what's gone on and how this state's been sold out to the highest bidders. And it's really been by politicians who lack the moral courage to defend our constitutional liberties and prevent our state from corporate takeover, because we are really evolving into a corporate state here. And my answer is absolutely no. So what I want to see with these SLIB decisions, for future SLIB decisions, is those get confirmed by the legislature. At least it brings the people back in to the equation. And it's like, okay, what's gone on is completely unsatisfactory to me. I don't like it at all. People come to Wyoming to get away from windmills. We know that these windmills never generate the energy to ever cover the cost of their production, their actual construction and everything else. We know that. We know what they do to the wildlife, particularly the birds. We know how much fiberglass they shed roughly annually, which is about 137 pounds per windmill annually. We know that there's another 4,000 that are on their way to Wyoming. And just because of the wind wall, if anybody's familiar with the wind wall, and it goes all the way out to Wamsutter and everything else. There's a whole bunch of these things coming, all right? And again, the thing really comes down to what's going on state land. And my answer is no. It's no. It's like we need to put back, baseload power needs to be shifted back to coal and to gas. That's what needs to happen right there. Because what's going on with this fluctuation in our boilers in there, anybody who knows anything about metallurgy knows that really reduces the life of our boilers, and it puts a lot of pressure on our power plants that are out there, because what they're doing is they're having to compensate for the lags in solar and wind. I mean,
Is solar the future of Wyoming?
No.
Is wind
No.
the future of
Absolutely
Wyoming?
not. No.
Is hydrogen power?
Yeah, I think hydrogen is
potential
very much in the future.
For the future of
You bet.
Wyoming?
And we've got a whole bunch of it here because we got so much natural gas.
One audience member writes that they recall for most of their lifetime refineries burning off gas
Yeah.
at each location of refineries throughout Wyoming.
Yeah.
And it'd be interesting if capture of that resource wasn't burnt into the atmosphere, but actually captured, and it could be a revenue driver for the state of Wyoming.
It could. It very well could, and I think, and this is what we have to do with UW engineering and some of these things over there is let's look for those technologies, to do this because things are so much different. I mean, technology expands so much just in the course of a year, but over the course of a generation, roughly 20 years. I mean, it's amazing what we can do now. And, so much of we're exporting 80% of our energy in this state, and it's kind of a shame to see that. And a lot of it, we're not collecting any taxes on or anything like that. So it's like, okay, what's really going on here? And, but yeah, I think, and look at our refineries.
Would you suggest an increase in severance tax, or would you derive revenue from the industries that you've mentioned in other ways?
Well, it comes down to a couple of things because we know that these industries, any raise in tax that they may receive, all gets passed off to the consumer, right? I mean, these guys are in for a profit margin, obviously, and that's what free market capitalism is about. But we got to make sure that that does not adversely affect the taxpayer.
Most of these resources are not end user necessarily for Wyoming. They're end used by California or larger states across the country.
That's right. And with the carbon capture that we're doing right now, we know that if it was profitable by the energy companies, that the taxpayer wouldn't be footing the bill on this stuff. Well, we're footing the bill on all this carbon capture stuff, so we know they know it's not profitable. So this is why the Corporations Committee, I think is the one I can't remember, they voted a few months ago that the House said no, get rid of it. We're not going to do it anymore. But the Senate side of it, because it's a joint committee, said no, well, let's keep it on there. Well, it has to be one of those things where both sides agree to get rid of it.